weather is wonky, signs are not fine, and everything is just a tad too yellow. Oddly, even the testing for upgraded lighting, which picked up huge praise, has since been removed from its experimental toggle in Chase the Skies, and at the very last minute they placed this big warning message telling you that you might not want to use vibrant visuals on all devices. In fact, in this video I want to test vibrant visuals on every low-end platform, including 7-year-old phones, and I want to show you every signal that Minecraft have shared for what they truly plan to do in their next vibrant visuals update, now that the presumed one has been cancelled instead. That's what we're going to do, so let's jump right into it with what we know about this so far, because obviously Vibrant Visuals was announced in March of this year, but it's actually been in development for many years before that under the term Deferred Technical Preview. This is where most of the legwork for the actual technical side of things got done, and from March to June is where they worked on the kind of niceties side, adding things like those beautiful shadows and actually tweaking the tech to make it work as a Minecraft vanilla feature. Now this is crucial to know about because they did do this in 3 months, but towards the end of the summer drop, it quickly became clear that to make this perfect, it would either need a full another 3 months for the autumn drop, or they could simply reduce the scope slightly and release it for the summer drop. The things they chose to reduce the scope were quite small, and now it means that the first version of Vibrant Visuals is in people's hands, and that means that instead of getting feedback just through the small percent of people who use betas, they can actually get it from the wider Minecraft community, and boy has that feedback been intense. So let's talk about that now. So this is the biggest feedback that people have given about Vibrant Visuals. Weirdly, it's been the weather. I felt like when they said that they were going to move weather until later, basically no one would care or notice, because ultimately it still looks like it's raining, but many people have been quick to point out that, whoa, where's the moody grey clouds? Why do they look mostly white? This is absolutely immersion ruining, and I thought people were being sarcastic at first, but no, this is terrible in many people's opinion. If it is raining, people want to see it be moody, and so that is one of the first things Mojang has taken aboard. The second thing, which Mojang actually did admit themselves when they released this, right here, but basically you can't use other texture packs, you can't use most things that customize your world with Vibrant Visuals right now. You can use skins, you can use add-ons, but you can't use custom worlds and texture packs, which is something that does obviously need to have a fix applied to it. Mojang have conceded even when they announced this, but then there are the kind of more stylistic concerns. Things like when you go into a cave you get this temporary blindness. This can also be directly kind of pointed out by using a sign. So this is a fun bug, as you might call it, because if you want to write something on a sign, and here's a bunch of text to go along with it, then you might find that it's really hard to read, and so you might want to put a glow ink sac on that text. However, that text then gets so bright that if you choose to look at it closely, this is not some weird video editing technique as cool as it looks. This is actually how it looks when you stare at a sign with glowing sacs. You literally feel like you've gone blind, and so Minecraft kind of is going a bit too realistic with the eye vision here, but also the same is true when you go into a desert. It's quite late, the sun is setting right now, but did you see how yellow things still got just there? If I set the time to noon, just to give you a better example, it goes from being very, very neutral, realistic and beautiful in many ways, to being absolutely, I guess, jarring when you get into one of these biomes. This is a piece of feedback that basically everyone seems to have had, and so it seems to be one of the more likely things that Mojang will address. On top of this, we see lots of more niche pieces of feedback regarding every type of block and how they like or don't like it, and ultimately this gives Mojang a lot of useful information for working out what to do next. But what have they done next? Well, I have to jump into the preview version of Minecraft to show you, because while it seemed as though the first version of Vibrant Visuals was going to contain the base layer visuals and then they were going to improve these later, you might have even seen something called Render Dragon features for creators. These were removed from the 1.20 1.90 update even as an experimental toggle, and so they're still now only found inside the newer beta, and even then it's behind one of these toggles which you can choose to turn on if you want to see them. If you haven't seen them yet, by the way, let's use my old PlayStation 4 creative world and show you what these experimental lighting features would have looked like. Oh, it is very cool to be back in a old creative world. You might recognize this one from way back in the Edition days. Anyway, so let's come into it, and although I could talk about the performance, which is not perfect here in Vibrant Visuals, instead I'm here to talk about what happens when we add in some extra lighting. So I'm going to do it from underneath the wolf here to show you. I guess it probably has to be nighttime. So pro tip, if you're on a controller or any Bedrock platform, you can just set the time really easily, just like this. Let's set the time to night. And while it's nighttime, you can see that the blue torch, it's definitely not giving off blue lighting. I think there's another setting you have to enable. So again, this is a setting that we figured would eventually come to experimental for the main game, but right now, it's not in the main game, even in experimental. Inside of the beta, it's not in the game. Inside of the beta, it's in experimental, and then after turning on experimental, you need to come into your video settings, I guess, go to Vibrant Visuals options, and then turn on point light shadow quality and point light quality. I'll set them to ultra because I don't care about my PlayStation 4's soul. And here you can see, ooh-wee, yeah, look at that lighting, isn't that something special? If we look at torches, we can then use the colored ones from the Education Edition, and we can make red lighting and purple lighting, and honestly, even regular lighting is just going to look far better in this, because that is the entire point. Look at that over there. The lanterns just look so much better because this is a lighting update for Vibrant Visuals, and as great as it looks and as much as people love seeing these, the truth is, I think Minecraft have decided to go a different direction. This has not received any updates. It still is, again, not just the beta, not just experimental, but also with an extra setting locked behind it. And that is for good reason, because I think they've decided instead that if Vibrant Visuals is going to succeed, then being only playable by 10 to 15% of Minecraft players doesn't make a lot of sense, and so that's why they're trying to improve things for lower-end devices. And if you don't understand why that needs to happen, here is a fun demonstration that I wanted to do anyway. I've been wanting to test for a while how well Minecraft performs on low-end devices, and so why don't we test that right now? So obviously you can see that my frame rate in the top left, because I'm playing the preview, has dipped from about 50 to 36 by putting on these lights. Given that it was already only 50, and 60 is usually considered the smooth movement threshold, you can see why you wouldn't want to have colored lighting on a PlayStation 4. Oh, it's weird. And that's even with it only applying when you're like a little while away from it. You can see how graphically intensive it is, but just how intensive is Vibrant Visuals by default? Well, let's test on all of the lowest end devices, because Minecraft lists minimum specs that are different from platform to platform. So if you're on Nintendo, the minimum spec is, aha, nothing, you've got you there. If you're on a PC, you need this graphics card, which is actually pretty reasonable. Just has to have DirectX 12, but if you are on an iPhone, an Android, an Xbox, or a PlayStation, there is just a piece of hardware you'll need to have at the minimum, and so according to their own minimums, the minimum device that can run it on each of the platforms is an Xbox One or S, a PlayStation 4 or Slim, an iPad Air or Mini from 2019, or an iPhone XR. And so, we've gotten each of these devices together, and we're going to test them according to this. This is going to be the first test we're going to be doing on our PlayStation 4, because we're here already, and the test is going to play with 3 different things which are very important for Minecraft performance. The first of these is world load speed. We're going to load up the same seed, it's 297 in case you're curious. I'm going to load up the same seed on each of these devices. I'm going to set the render distance to max and Vibrant Visuals to medium and all settings, and we're going to see how well the world loads over a 1,000 block fly. Obviously, you don't fly most of the time in survival, but you can fly substantially faster than creative flying if you get a fast horse or an ice boat, or indeed use an elytra, and so this is going to be an important test of the performance of the game actually loading in chunks. You can see right here that on the PlayStation 4 it is actually struggling with this quite a bit. All of these chunks being loaded in with the higher end visuals is starting to cause some problems, but once we reach 1,000 blocks and we've concluded what this looks like, again, the answer's pretty poor here. So much of my field of view is white right here. After we've gone 1,000 blocks, then I'm going to painstakingly type in this command. I'll speed this up for you. /fill. Speed up my voice right now. It will sound super high-pitched and funny because of the whatever the name of that effect is. And so now, here is where being in the preview is particularly important. You can see our resting FPS and how much it was when we're flying, but now you're going to see what the FPS looks like when we're staring at 7,000 entities. So this is what it looks like. Every single one of these chests are considered by Minecraft as being the same as a mob. Don't ask how that can possibly be true, but it is. And so this is what the game is like when you have a bunch of things, either chests or mobs or just passive things in your world that you have to look at. And you can see if we try to do a circling of this right now, our FPS is hovering in the 5 to 6 range. This is pretty bad. Obviously, you're not going to be doing this with vibrant visuals all of the time, but it is a crucial test of how bad things can get. Look away from the chests and things will jump straight back up to the 30 region, and look at the chest again and things will dip straight back down to 5.6. It's a very interesting 5.6, but as you can see, things are just about fine otherwise, which is why we do one last test, because one of the biggest load time concerns that is impacted by your graphics is going to be switching dimensions, and to be clear, this is technically a test of the load time on a platform, which should be storage based more than anything else, but seeing how much the frame rate dips as we switch dimension is how fast it can actually load things up. No one wants to spend their first 20 seconds in a new dimension lagging, like can happen on some devices, which is why we're going to be doing precisely this. Into the Nether we go. This will be the final test, and it's important not just because load times are, although that's arguably storage based, but because when you switch dimensions, Minecraft has to unload all of your old chunks and load in new ones and show them to you as quickly as possible, so it's a big spot that lag can occur. And so now that you know the free tests, we're going to use the PlayStation 4 as our benchmark and compare it against the other free low-end devices. We'll start with the Xbox, because obviously the Xbox One was the competitor platform for the PlayStation, and so you would expect remarkably similar results, and you would get them. I think on our fly test, going 1,000 blocks, you'll notice that the performance was very, very similar. We ended up with about 40 to 50 FPS while doing this, and as you can see, although things started well, very quickly we were loading in barely enough chunks to have ahead of us, so this is basically a match. Meanwhile, on the iPad, which is technically a newer device, things were just a little bit worse. You can see here that instead of getting 40 to 50 FPS, we ended up somewhere between the 30 and 35 FPS range. Maybe you think that is acceptable on a tablet, especially because it's running at a higher resolution. I don't necessarily know that I agree, but technically it was loading, although you're not going to be seeing very much here at all. And then if we compare it to a Samsung Galaxy S10e, this is a device actually that is newer than the iPad, but it is of course more mobile. We found out that things got very, very hot very quickly, and so the frame rate went from about 12 to 13 at the very start, down to just a little bit slower at about 10 by the time we're at the very end here. In the S10e's defense, it was loading chunks slightly better, at least in front of the player, but in the exact opposite of that, even when we stopped flying, the frame rate still hovered at about 10, and then it dipped as low as 5 FPS, which is pretty darn tragic. This is as low as the PlayStation 4 got on its chest check, and speaking of the chest test, let's now go into the second thing we want to do here. 7,000 entities on the Xbox One. What does it end up looking like as we do a fly around it? Well, the answer is 5.7 to 5.8 SPS. You can see it's remarkably stable here, which is, I mean, good, I guess we could argue. Whereas when we go onto the iPad, I wasn't expecting very much, and I was pleasantly surprised to learn that it didn't just match the PlayStation 4, it did, by about 10 to 20%, slightly better. The frame rate got as high as 7.5, even while staring at these 7,000 chests, even at this resolution, which is a real sale point for the iPad Pro, apparently. Meanwhile, if we look at the Galaxy S10e, do we expect high things from this platform? Well, you should do, because actually the FPS managed to hover here just above 6, meaning that a device that was getting 5 frames per second doing nothing in a forest after things had settled, after we placed these 7,000 chests, was actually slightly outperforming the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4. This was very, very, very unexpected and was a fun little boost there, but still represents some pretty poor performance. Anyway, the final thing that I wanted to test was how it looked when we loaded up the Nether, and again, the results were really interesting here because frame rates varied massively across devices, but the most important thing you need to know is that on an Xbox One, it was about 8 seconds. This is very similar to a PlayStation 4. On an iPad, this was 6 seconds, while on the S10e, it was just below 6 seconds, showing that even though there is, performance required, both processing performance, I should say, required to load up a new dimension, it seems like storage is the most important thing, and it seems as though it is much faster on an S10e than an iPad, than on a PlayStation 4 and an Xbox One. And just for fun, Harrison also tested it on his iPhone XR, which got 12 seconds, and so that's the very worst performance. But in general, the Never isn't that horrific to load up. We've come a long way on the Bedrock side of the game, and as long as you're not playing the Switch edition, you can expect your worlds to load up relatively quickly if your device supports vibrant visuals. However, again, all of these tests showed one clear thing, which is that you can technically play vibrant visuals on any device you like, but even if you set your settings down to medium, there are going to be moments where your frame rate dips, if only to 50 FPS, but more realistically, as you start traveling faster and further, or indeed as you start to get more entities like chests and pets in your house, you're going to find that your frame rates dip more and more, something that clearly could do with some work, if only in allowing for lower settings, but ideally for optimizing more so less performance is taken and your device gets less warm. Because boy, does your phone not like it when you do that, is what we learned from this test. I hope those tests were as eye-opening for you as they were for me when I first saw just how bad Minecraft is on low-end devices. I realized why it is they need to put that warning in place and why that is clearly an early priority for Minecraft to fix. However, as we move into the future, it is worth asking ourselves what needs to happen next, and obviously Minecraft have stated that, like, well, getting it working on better low-end devices is important, but they actively said in the announcement right here that yes, this is just the first step. We will bring vibrant visuals to Java Edition in the future, and they even go a step further, saying that we're actively working on Minecraft visuals for Java Edition. This means that they want to have it released in a way that is not just serving their players, but also their modders and resource packs creators. This means that making sure that Minecraft runs on the widest range of devices possible, which means, yes, your Xbox One S's, but also it means your Java Edition devices. Right now, while playing with vibrant visuals enabled on Bedrock, I can get 111 FPS, as you can see right here, while I've got my render distance set to 22 chunks, so 24 chunks, whereas if I play Java Edition at 24 chunks with no vibrant visuals, I can't hope to have anywhere near that consistent a frame rate, especially while recording, and so that is something that Minecraft clearly needs to work on for the Java edition of the game. And then there's the fact of the truth of the matter that I can't mix any resource packs of it. These are two big priorities for Minecraft: better performance, better resource pack functionality, and as you've seen, also the little tweaks that don't take performance but do improve people's playability. This is how rain works in the current preview. I'm here not just for frame rates, but also to show you that yes, look, it's super rainy, but still there is more work needed. Why can I see the shadows of things that I can't actually see? Is that... I'm pretty sure that's not how the real world works. I might be wrong on that one. You know, there are lots of tiny issues that they are looking to fix, and that is something I think we can expect to see as we get closer to the autumn drop. Will it be 1.20, 1.100, or 1.20, 1.110? Well, at some point that becomes a wild game of speculation, and although I love a good bit of speculation, I think the wider philosophy here is the reminder of once something becomes the norm for you, you forget that it's not the norm for the overwhelming majority of people, and as many things as you can apply that to in a first world Western lifestyle, I think for now, I would love to use it in the Minecraft community to remind you that if you're getting vibrant visuals, you are one of the lucky few. Not all Minecraft players have this, and so appreciate this while you can. Well, I mean, not while you can, but appreciate it, because it is coming to more people, and you should want the joy to be shared with as many people as possible. That's certainly what I want here on this YouTube channel. By the way, if you want to see more videos like this and maybe get some joy of some form, consider subscribing. You can perhaps even turn on those notifications to see more videos like this every single day on your homepage. And yes, I am going to do a Vibrant Visuals round review, checking out your worlds if you've sent them to me with the VV tag. I'm looking forward to doing that shortly, but for now, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye. Honestly, I don't like rain. I don't know why people claim that they like rain. I think it's got like a very particular mood that fits, but I think we need a lot more than that.